Archaeology Network, and we are a not-for-profit organization devoted to educating the public about the archaeological resources of Florida. One of the #1 places we're preserving archaeology in Miami-Dade is in Miami-Dade parks. So every day that we save a park, we save archaeology. And here in the Miami-Dade parks, we have archaeological resources that range all the way back from 12,000 years ago. One of the oldest archaeology sites in Florida is here in Miami-Dade County. We have historic sites, and you guys will love this. Right now, the trailer parks are old enough that they're potentially significant in an archaeological. Because think about it, when trailers first came into being, it was the first time that people lived that way. First time they lived in like this mobile home concept since they had teepees. So there are some of the early trailer parks that are now being designated as archaeological resources because they've been there so long and they represent a really important moment in time from an archaeological perspective. Dade County, one of the things I think is important is that people always think of archaeology being 10,000 years old, but really if you want to think about when Dade County became a big community, you have to think of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. There's earlier stuff, but they weren't big. So a lot of those 1940s subdivisions have the potential of being significant. Or just recently, I'm sure you all saw in the paper where the Lemon City Cemetery was actively uncovered. So the resources are out there, and we just have to find ways to preserve them. The best way to preserve them is in the. So this was the original Dixie Highway, correct? So Dixie Highway was one of the major thoroughfares down into South Florida. And so at one time, this was the way you got up and down the coast if you weren't walking on the beaches. That's what it was. This would be your basic bathroom tile from the 50s. But the point is that this was a trailer park, and so there are going to be historic artifacts showing up here. But that'd be bathroom tile. Yeah, that's why it's no fun going for a walk with archaeologists.
A piece of a conch shell. This is the inner coil, and this was used by the Cast Indians from around 500 BC till about 1500 AD, I believe. Basically what a midden is it's basically a trash dump, so kind of like where we throw all our broken dishes and stuff like that. This is pretty much what this is here. They were extremely resourceful, so they basically tried to use every single part of everything that they could possibly find. So for instance, with the conch shell, what they would do is they would take the conch.
And we've got examples of these tools back at the...
But they would take the conch, fashion roll it, take the conch out, eat the conch, the snail, then they would use the, the actual shell for things like a hammer, or maybe like a grinding tool, maybe for a chisel, and things like that. We also have shark vertebrae, shark teeth, pottery, and all kinds of things that you can find just in this small area right here.
That river, which is not very functional anymore, but at one time it was a big, gorgeous tourist attraction river. And so the people would use places like this that were inland with the nice oak hammocks as a place to hunt deer and raccoons and opossums, to gather acorns, to eat the gunty plants. And so this would have been a good resource, but where's your shell? Oh, you threw it over there. The point is, those conchs didn't hump up here. Somebody brought them here. They didn't live in that river. They didn't live in the highway. That represents someone taking animals from the ocean and coming up that creek a couple of miles. Which is hard to remember because we're so used to seeing shells everywhere because they're used as paving materials. But that means people were coming here on purpose. They weren't eating them at the beach. They were making their homes here and using all those.
We've actually been battling with for the past couple of years. It's I'm not sure exactly what the name is. We were having a debate whether it was guinea hen weed or lizard tail, but basically the way it travels is these little seed pods right here. They catch onto your clothes when you walk by, and then they kind of go like that. They're really hard to kill. They have really firm root systems, so it's kind of been our biggest problem when it comes to exotic plants here. right? This is poison ivy, and it sucks.
I'm definitely
it out, or I'm definitely not a fan of it. It is native, so we're technically not going to remove it, but we do try to maintain it off the trails. Basically, what it is it is a vine. It does what it does is, or how it affects people is, if you rub up on it, it'll give you a rash eventually. It has oils on this on the surface of the leaves that irritate your skin. Is related to the mango, poison oak, poison sumac, all those plants. And you get a really mean rash from it if you are allergic to it. Some people aren't, but most people are. If you look at it, some of these actually have little like boils on them, and it's just like the the toxin being released onto the top of the leaves, I believe. But because it only happens in the summertime, so.
Yeah, instead of coffee, so pretty.
They are sometimes they're made out of soil, and a lot of them are actually made out of discarded oyster shells. And the story had always been these oyster shells, they eat the oysters and just throw them away. But when you excavate one of the mounds, you'll see that some of the shells they ground up so that it was more stable. Some of the shells they put on the outside to make a different shape. And so it's not just lazy Native Americans not throwing their food somewhere else. I mean, they threw their food over there. This was on purpose for a variety of reasons. It's also possible that there were burials, they might have been buried in the top 20 feet. And they're now underneath Dixie Highway. There's a couple of other good mounds you can see in this area. If you go up to Pompano, I know someone saw a very nice video recently of the Pompano Indian Mound that can be accessed through our website. And there's another really beautiful mound up at Jupiter Inlet, which is underneath. It's this historic house called the Du Bois House. And lo and behold, the house is not on a hill, it's actually on a giant midden that was put there as a marker.
There's also a burial mound in El Portal, which is a little village, and it's in the middle of an actual street. They made it into a little median, and it's right in front of a whole bunch of people's houses, so it's kind of interesting, because you'll never know what it is unless you take a stop and look at it. Yeah.
The nice thing about here down in Florida is they don't have basements. And so all of those 40s and 50s houses that got put in like there, underneath those houses, the chances are they're still they're still the living floors of where these people lived. So it's something to consider as we tear down those 50s houses and put up McMansions. The things like that Lemon City incident are going to happen again and again.
The area right here is actually quite strange, because if you look at it, the first thing that a lot of people notice is this giant fern right here. Now this fern is actually a coastal plant, which is kind of strange to be found in the middle of a hammock, because I mean, do you guys see water anywhere in sight? Not really, right?
Nope.
Right, so the reason why this plant can actually survive here is because there's actually what is called a limestone solution hole down here, and it's not that at one point in time there was actually a little bit of a creek that ran through the park. When it rains really hard and it floods, you can actually kind of see it here, but it actually collects water. When it does rain, you can come here and you can look down there, and this little funnel right here will be full of water. So it's definitely kind of interesting to find in the middle of
Good thing I'm a lightweight, huh?
Thank you. Yeah.